Hey everybody, welcome back to Chortle Cast. I'm one of your hosts, Jake, and with me as always, Stream King, the Far Cry guy, and the number one, the Count impersonator, Steven.
Hey guys.
Do the thing, Steven, do the thing.
Boy, I'm no dog. I don't.
What if I give you a treat?
Oh. How many treats?
About, let's say 2 Scooby snacks.
2 Scooby snacks?
Yeah.
Okay. It'll be somewhere in the stream.
Okay, it'll happen. It'll happen, ladies and gentlemen. You've heard it here. This is Chortle Cast, the official podcast of Chortle Games, where we talk about video games, TV shows, movies, anime, whatever the heck we want to talk about. We've got a great, short little show for you. We're going to be talking about the Xbox plus Bethesda buyout and what the implications of that are. We're going to talk about some new Marvel's Avengers leaks and rumors.
Data
mines. And then we're going to catch up on what we've been playing. And we're just going to have a good time together, hanging out. And somewhere in there, Steven's going to do a count impression.
Somewhere.
It'll happen. We hope it'll happen. Well, let's just dive into story number
1.
It took too long, but I appreciated it. All right. So, Steven, we do this podcast every Monday at 12 o'clock Central Standard Time.
We do.
This past Monday, after we've already recorded this lovely podcast that we do, Xbox decides to drop probably one of the biggest acquisition announcements I've heard.
Very interesting.
I've heard many people say in the history of the gaming industry. Definitely one of the biggest acquisitions in a while. This is pretty huge. It's a pretty big deal. But Microsoft shocked the gaming world when they announced that they had acquired ZeniMax Media, which is the parent company of Bethesda. They got this in a $7.5 billion cash deal. The move adds 8 more studios to Xbox first-party portfolio, including Bethesda Games, who has Elder Scrolls, Fallout, the upcoming Starfield games, and obviously more. id Software, who has Doom, Arcane, who has Prey and Dishonored, Machine Games, that's Wolfenstein, Tango Gameworks, which was The Evil Within, and more. So a lot of stuff. This is
it's not as big of a deal as it may sound when you hear that story, because look, I'm not saying Bethesda's not a big developer. They are. But take away Elder Scrolls, and it's like, okay, there's some good games in there. The real big thing is that because Bethesda has Elder Scrolls, we think they're much more diverse in their library than they are. They make some good games, and they've got some well-versed games, but I wouldn't say it's the biggest in history. It's a big deal, but
it's a big deal.
It is.
I'm if you try to think of like a better, like what's another, like Sony getting Insomniac, like that was a big deal, but this seems bigger. Anyway, it doesn't matter. How
big of a deal is it? Let us know in the comments.
Let us know in the comments how big of a deal you think it is. So, the funny thing, Steven, about you mentioning that, I'm like, like these are good games, but like whatever. My first comment to you was, I can't believe Bethesda is worth $7.5 billion.
See, that's the thing. Elder Scrolls.
Well, I think that's where it boils down to is you can't argue that Skyrim you can't say that wasn't a super successful game. It came to the Alexa, it came to Echo. It's on refrigerators.
I'm mainly just being facetious. I'm mainly just being facetious because it really is a big deal.
Right.
And it'd be a bigger deal if there was the promise. It'd be an even bigger deal if there was the promise of this means that Bethesda games are going to be as exclusive to Xbox as Insomniac games are to PlayStation.
So
that would be a huge deal.
This is the funny thing, right? So this gets announced, and immediately there's confusion because you got Deathloop and Ghostwire,
which is a PlayStation exclusive. Both of them.
Yes, both of them are PlayStation 5 exclusives. Or, well, I guess just PlayStation exclusive. I'm not sure if they're coming to PS4 or not. But anyway, so you're automatically like, okay, what does that mean? So like one of the first headlines that came out of this was Deathloop and Ghostwire are going to be PS5 exclusives. They're going to honor that deal, whatever. And so it's hilarious to think that Xbox is publishing 2 PS5 exclusive games, which is just
the first games Bethesda is going to be publishing after its acquisition from Microsoft. 2 PlayStation exclusives.
So that's just funny, right?
That's just weird.
It's a good. I'm glad.
It's good for us. It's good for us.
It's good for us. I'm glad they're honoring that. I think that's the right thing to do. But that's the big question, right? And headlines have come out that I think it was Phil Spencer even said that, there's a potential that things will still, games that Bethesda publishes will still come to other systems, meaning Switch and PlayStation, we assume.
Right.
But I don't know. What do you think about that, Steven? Do you think that?
I think that, honestly, Microsoft, I know I've said like, oh, they need to get exclusives. This isn't the way to go. Because when I say get exclusives, I mean, don't take the studio that has made the most like re-released game in history. Don't take that studio and make those your exclusives, because then you're just going to piss people off.
Yeah.
Because if you make Elder Scrolls and Fallout and everything, if you make those exclusive, you will get some buy-in. You will get people to move over to Xbox. Mm-hmm. But you know what's going to make more money? Is if you just keep releasing them on all platforms and just pocket some of the change of games that are being sold over on PlayStation. And that was the joke I made to you. Mm-hmm. I was like, Microsoft's next big plan for Xbox to stay afloat is to just start making money off of PlayStation games. But honestly, like, it's not a dumb idea, because I
completely agree. Xbox and PlayStation are going such different directions at this point. And so is Nintendo's always kind of marched to the beat of their own drum. But, with the Switch, they definitely are on their own path. I think Xbox has now kind of carved their own path of they very much don't care where you're playing or how you're playing. They just want you to be playing with them, I guess is kind of a way to put it. Their whole thing is, to me, this Bethesda buy-in, Xbox Game Pass is already the best deal in gaming. We talk about that every podcast, I feel like, to the point that we should be sponsored. But this is a huge thing for them, because now Bethesda's entire lineup is going to be part of Xbox Game Pass. And then all future games are going to launch straight on Xbox Game Pass.
So it's really just fantastic news for me.
Exactly. Well, yeah. Yeah. Anybody who's got Game Pass, that's a huge deal. To me, that is, and PlayStation has come out and said, like, they don't believe that is a sustainable model. And I don't know how Xbox is doing it. I don't, and you could argue that Microsoft is bigger. There were some numbers I was seeing this week that, like, this $7.5 billion buyout, like Sony or PlayStation rather made like $8.9 billion this year or something like that. Like Microsoft just has tons more money to throw around.
Well, and that's because Microsoft, Sony is an entertainment and electronics company. Mm-hmm. Like, they've got other things.
Yeah.
But Microsoft, like, Xbox is much closer to the overall DNA of Microsoft than PlayStation is to the overall DNA of Sony, I feel like.
Yeah, I agree. I agree to that. But anyway, all that to say, they're doing such different things. I kind of think it would be stupid, like you're saying, to make it all exclusive. I think they're going to get what they want out of this by this just further cements it's stupid not to have Xbox Game Pass. Because we could sit here and argue about the quality of Bethesda games. I mean, I think you can't argue with Skyrim. It's buggy, there's a lot of issues, but it's sold extremely well.
It's not a great game.
Right.
It's just a really good gateway into RPGs.
They have
that just exploded.
It's
very accessible.
They have a lot of really good 7 to 8 games,
Yes.
And maybe some 9s in there. Nothing that's just a masterpiece, but just some really good games that like you got to experience, but they're not going to be the best playing.
Yeah, up until recent years, Bethesda didn't really dip below a 7 or an 8 on any of their games. Then, they got a bit of a god complex, thought they were untouchable. Then Fallout 76 happened. And here we are. They're bought by Xbox.
A lot of people are really excited because Obsidian is in the Xbox game family, right? So a lot of people were tweeting like, so could Fallout New Vegas 2 happen? And even Obsidian was like, they tweeted like a shrug emoji, like maybe it could. Who knows? Like, so
I love Obsidian so much.
They're great. At least they seem like it.
They're great. I really hope they go back to the Seven Dwarves video game and they really bring that back.
Wow,
that's a thing.
I know.
Yeah. I don't know. I think it's ultimately good news if Microsoft is doing what I think they're doing, and what they seem to be doing is I've ripped on Epic Games for doing this, but it makes a lot more sense for a hardware and software developer to do this rather than just a bunch of lazy people in their big buildings wanting to make money off of the work of other people. Right. But for Microsoft to basically make their model, because Sony claims the Games Pass model is not sustainable. And you wonder how Microsoft is able to sustain it. It's because they've got their fingernails in so many things. Like they've got revenue coming in from all these different places. And so what they're essentially doing is that they're upping their revenue flow. They are making it to where if PlayStation does well, Microsoft by proxy does well. Because Bethesda games, if they release on Sony, those games are going to sell like hotcakes on PlayStation.
And Xbox is going to get that money.
Right, exactly. And that's
that money.
That's really smart, because I really do think that this could be the last Xbox we ever get. Because Xbox, surely they have to understand that what they're doing is kind of eliminating the need for a console. So like I have to wonder, like, moving forward as technology changes. I mean, we're at the point where we're playing Xbox games on our phones. At what point are they going to be like, making the hardware isn't worth it? We basically are playable on any other device. So what's the point?
Yeah.
Like that's kind of, and I'm not saying that Xbox systems don't sell well. That's not what I'm saying at all. But I'm saying that like, it really seems like they're planting the seeds to never need Xbox. So
you're saying, in a way, you're saying by next generation, the PlayStation 6 will have Xbox Game Pass. It's kind of what we're possibly. That was my next question. I was like, how much longer do I have to wait before it's on PlayStation so I can have access to this? So one other, to wrap this story up with this question, Stephen, does this, and we've kind of already talked about how they're not really competing anymore. They're doing their own thing. But does this make you want an Xbox more? Like, do you think this puts Xbox their lineup of quote unquote exclusives? Because again, we don't think they're going to be exclusive. But do you think this brings them up to PlayStation's exclusive level? No, not at all. And I say that because, again, I just really don't think that they're going to make them exclusive. Right. They may make them early access. They will probably get early DLC access, stuff like that. But it would be dumb of them to do that. And even then,
Like if you're at the door, you know, you're going to your GameStop, you're looking at in the window, there's PlayStation 5 here, there's Xbox Series whatever over there. And you in that moment have to decide, because there's going to be a lot of buy-in within the first year. That's when a good chunk of it is going to happen anyway. Maybe not launch year, but within that first 365 days of next gen being out.
Right.
People are going to go buy, and they're going to buy based on, well, what games. And for Xbox to not have a Halo out, sure, there's one on the way and it will be out within that first 365, but for them to just to be like, oh, we've got Bethesda games coming.
Right.
And then people are like, oh, cool, Deathloop.
Yeah.
When can I play that? And they're like, oh, hold on. Let me clarify.
Yeah.
They're coming. They're not here. They're coming. For them to basically, I don't think that this is a move of them trying to compete with the exclusive market of PlayStation. And I know that we're both in agreement there. So I think that to ask if this does that for me, or if this does that for anyone, maybe there are some people that are thinking long term, which totally understandable. If you're someone who plays pretty much only single player, you don't want to invest too much in gaming, but you love your Elder Scrolls, you love your Fallout, get you an Xbox Series S, wait for the Bethesda titles to come out, because sure, why not?
Yep.
But for large part, like your primary gaming audience, the ones that are still going to want to be able to play Spider-Man, Miles Morales, Horizon Zero Dawn 2, God of War Ragnarok, and so on and so on and so on, it's not enough.
Yeah.
Skyrim or not.
That's where
Elder Scrolls or not.
That's where it falls down for me. Is Xbox has the quantity, right? I think they've got 23 studios now, something like that, versus Sony. I forget exactly. I want to say it's like 13 or 10 or something. It's a lot less. But
right.
I think with Sony, the quality is there. I mean, the last couple Sony exclusive first party titles have been in the Game of the Year conversation. You know, every single one of them has been. Horizon was in there. God of War was in there. Spider-Man was in there. Last of Us Part 2 is probably going to be in there coming up this year. But you know, those are games that are going to define a generation. Whereas Skyrim, you know, was probably in that conversation at one point. But like,
oh, absolutely.
I don't know. I feel like the games that Xbox has right now are not those. They are, you know, 6 to 8 levels, and Sony has 9 to 10. You know,
yeah, they're making good games. Like Obsidian is like they've become one of my favorite developers, just period, because of the way they do RPGs. But at the same time, they're not releasing exclusively, and the games that they make are great, but they're not getting people talking near as much. Like Outer Worlds came out, I loved it. It's a great game, but no one's talking as much about Outer Worlds as they have about any PlayStation exclusive, except for maybe Days Gone.
Days Gone. Or Days Gone. It's a great game. But that's one of those that's a rare like 8, you know, that falls in the Sony.
It's the outlier. It's not bad, but when stacked up against giants, it looks short.
Yeah.
And so that's all that to be said. I think it's great news. I think that anyone who is saying like, oh, Sony, you're in trouble, you better start buying up studios, I think they're missing the point. Right. Sony's not interested in creating that revenue flow, digging their teeth into all of gaming, period. Sony seems a lot more interested in just doing their own thing, which which does seem, when stacked up against things like Stadia and Microsoft with the cloud gaming and all that kind of stuff, and Amazon announced cloud gaming this week, I think.
Yep.
But which, looking at Sony, it's just like, wow, guys, it's not 1990 anymore. Your model's a little dated, but if it ain't broke, don't fix it. And the console, idea. The idea of, having a gaming console, having exclusive games to play it, that's not a dated idea. It's just an old idea. Like,
right.
There's still relevance to it. It still works. It's still what people want. And as far as I say, like, if Microsoft wants to do what they're doing by doing the whole play anywhere, on anything kind of deal, great. The industry is headed in that direction, but I don't think the industry is at the same time headed away from the console direction.
Right.
Because Sony is not out of touch. I don't think personally, and maybe it's just because of my bias and my preference. What they're doing works.
I think you're right. What they're doing works, and like we said several times, I don't think the console wars are even. I mean, people are still going to argue, oh, the PS5 did better, or the Xbox One X did better, or whatever. Or not Series X, not One X. That a lot of people got confused about that in the pre-orders this week.
Oh man, I can't wait to talk about that.
The console wars are still going to exist because people are going to argue who did better this generation with these, because the consoles still exist. But as we've said before, I truly think Xbox has their own goals of success and Sony has their own goals of success. And, I don't think they're really worried about what the other one's doing
right
at this point.
I agree. I do think the whole which console was better argument is still going to happen.
Mm-hmm. It is because there's two consoles now.
Right. But when that argument happens, and this is not to say that I think one lost and one won. Mm-hmm. But when that argument happens, it's always going to go to, well, PlayStation 5 had this game, and Xbox had this game. And so like that to me is the proof that Sony's model still works. We buy systems because of the games that are on them.
Right.
I can't think of a single person yet. And again, the industry is heading this direction, but I don't think most people are there yet. I can't think of a single person who is going to choose Xbox, except for maybe one person who commented on one of our podcasts, who is going to buy an Xbox because of the aspect of being able to play anywhere, which you can do with PlayStation, just not effectively. I don't think the features of bringing gaming to the next level of what is next for the space, I don't think that's really the system seller for the vast majority yet. I think we're headed that direction, but I don't think that this generation is the one to do it.
Right.
Could be wrong, but like you said, like they're both doing two completely different things. And I'm totally cool with that. And I know that it's easier for me to say that because I'm over here with a PC and a PlayStation and a Switch. So I'm good. I can play basically whatever I want.
Right.
Except for those darn Stadia exclusives and those Apple Arcade exclusives. Man, I'm really going to miss out on those.
Yeah. Apple Arcade's fine. I still have it. I'm debating about it. I don't know. I don't know if I want to keep it very much longer, but so I mentioned this earlier, but there was a headline this week that Xbox One X sales rank their rank went up by 747% on Amazon. So in other words, people went to pre-order an Xbox Series X and got an Xbox
some
One,
poor kid's mom, like 700 poor moms. We're trying to do little Timmy a favor by buying him a new Xbox on Amazon. And because this is the one thing that I will never understand for Xbox. Like, I understand why they did it, but it's like, come on, there surely had to have been a better solution. But their whole thing is, well, if we make it Xbox 4, that sounds less than PlayStation. Right. So let's just confuse the hell out of everybody.
It's a real shame.
It's Xbox 360, Xbox One, Xbox One X, Xbox Series S, Xbox Series X. Who and what? Like, who was high? What was he high on? And why? Phil Spencer. It was Phil Spencer, I bet. It was totally Phil Spencer. He probably was, smoking a doobie and was like, Series X.
Wow.
Then he flicked
How
it.
did they get to one? Like, why did they think 1 was going to be okay?
Because it's number 1, Jake. It's number 1. X.
Okay. Steven, if I get an Xbox Series S, can we play Xbox Game Pass games together?
No, I doubt it. Maybe. It depends on if they have crossplay.
I guess so.
Could
we play Sea of Thieves again together? I just
even if we could, Jake, I'm not gonna play it.
Sea of Thieves is one of those games that, like, I wish I could turn off other people, because that game was so fun to just sail. You know, just go from island to island, do my own thing. And they've got so much more content in it now with, like, all the different things you can fight, which, like, I know I could not fight them all by just myself. I would need a crew. But, like, the worst part, absolutely, of that game is when you're just trying to do your own thing and other players just come in.
I have
take over you.
No desire to play any game that encourages you to be a dick. Like, I hate that, because, like, even Division, which I play a crap load of, it has the Dark Zone.
Yep.
But just because the Dark Zone is there does not mean you have to be a dick. You can be rewarded for being a dick, but it's not mandatory. It doesn't feel like it's the point. And in Sea of Thieves, it's like, yeah, the point is to be as much of an awful person as possible. Pirates.
The point is to be a pirate, and pirates don't leave you alone.
I have no desire to play Sea of Thieves.
All right, well, we'll see. We'll see.
Maybe. I'm may bring back Captain Grog and Tim, or whatever his name was.
Captain Grog. Yep, that was it. All right, Steven, tell us about some of these Marvel Avengers data mine.
So
leaks.
I can't speak to too much, like, firsthand. On it.
Right.
Because I watched, by the way, if you ever want information, I'm going to toss this guy, maybe like 1 or 2 people to even check his channel out. But if you're ever looking for a channel for, like, good information on just Marvel games in general, this is the guy I went to for Marvel Ultimate Alliance, and he did such a good job covering it. He's been doing a great job covering Avengers. Always Nerdy. It's a YouTube channel. This guy literally just covers games that are coming out, like Marvel games that are coming out. He very much just feels like a fan of these games who just makes videos at his computer, but he's super well informed. So definitely check him out if you're a fan of Marvel gaming at all. He's been the most reliable, consistent source, period. Like, I can't find anyone that's better. So go tell him that Chortle Games sent you.
Always nerdy, never dirty.
Always nerdy. Just always nerdy. Just leave it there. Tell him that Chortle Games sent you, and when he's like, "Who is that?" Tell him, I don't know. Drop him a sub and find out. Winky emoji.
Tell him we're always dirty and sometimes dirty.
Tell him that Jake isn't there, and he'll be like, "Who is Jake?" And then just don't respond.
Wow.
But no, he made a video on these leaks, and I watched him last night. And there's this guy on Twitter named Miller. And he apparently has been covering all of the data mines and all that stuff that's been going on, because this game has been it's been a very leaky game. Yeah, there's just been data miners been having a field day.
Data mine once the game launched, the preload was there, the whole thing.
It's and I mean, I don't think that's a bad thing. I don't think this game has suffered at all from data mining. In fact, I think it's probably benefited from it, because a lot of people are, and I would probably be feeling this way too, just kind of sitting there wondering, because the game does have somewhat of a lacking of content right now. And there are probably a lot of people out there who are thinking, is this it? And whether they paid off these people to go data mine and leak it, I doubt it. But, you know, it is what it is.
If they paid them off, Steven, do you think that they paid them and said, go data mine? Or do you think they just gave them the information and said, pretend like you data mined?
For Miller's case, I wouldn't be surprised if that it was like, hey, here's concept art for War Machine. Go nuts.
Okay. Because I really like the idea of them paying somebody to break the game to get information instead of just giving it to them.
Yeah, kind of like how, like with hackers, like for like security, like cybersecurity,
white hat hacker,
they'll be like, hey, hack this, and if you can hack it, you get the job. Who knows? But just a bunch of data mining has been happening, and I do think it's been for the game's benefit. There's a lot more promise of things to come, which this game definitely has needed.
What things are coming, Stephen? Tell me about them. Those sweet juicy finds.
So we do know that Wakanda is going to be the first raid. The AIM Secret Lab is going to be a 4-player experience that's going to be end game, but I don't think it's going to be something that we could consider a raid. But Wakanda will be a raid. So does that mean 8 heroes? I don't know. I have no idea.
I don't know.
That would be really cool though, even though it would be really hard to play that, because I imagine they would. How many heroes are in the game right now? Can you think off the top of your head?
We can name it: Iron Man, Thor, Kamala, Hulk, Black Widow, Cap. So
then Kate Bishop and Hawkeye.
6. Kate Bishop and Hawkeye. That would make it 8.
Okay, so they could do an 8-person raid.
But you would think if Wakanda is going to be that raid, wouldn't
Black Panther's going to get released?
Black Panther with Wakanda, yeah. So that would put you up
absolutely.
To 9.
So, Black Panther was leaked. He was data mined in this, and we all knew Black Panther was coming. They teased it in the war table.
And to be clear, there was a data mine of a list of characters.
Yes,
this data mine that Steven's about to get into it's a different list, but it's a lot more concrete.
It's a list that contains concrete evidence that it's true about characters that were included on that previously data mined list.
Yes.
So the Black Panther, apparently Miller got a glimpse into Black Panther's design for the game. He did not leak it.
Okay.
But he did say it looked like a combination between the Black Panther Man Without Fear run and the Thrice Blessed armor, which is the armor that looks kind of like samurai armor a little bit, where it's got the helmet with the back part of the neck and then the big shoulder plates, like a beefy looking Black Panther armor. And that sounds really cool to me, because it almost sounds like, because the Man Without Fear armor, I'm looking at it right now, it has kind of those metal plated like shoulder or knee guards. So it almost sounds like this armor could look like a medieval knight version of Black Panther, because it's going to be very armored, but according to that description alone. That sounds awesome. I think that's really cool. There were audio files of certain characters saying hello to other characters, like by name. There is an audio file of Kamala going, "Oh, hey, Spider-Man." And he leaked it. We got to hear it. So there was an audio file that mentioned Jennifer, so She-Hulk. I think King T'Challa was mentioned. There was Spider-Man. What were the other ones? Bucky. It was Barnes. They said Barnes, which is probably Bucky. Which, interesting thing about that, this universe, if the book is canon to the game, Bucky,
which it should be.
It should be. The game is canon to the book, but I don't know if the book is canon to the game. I really hope it is, because so far it makes sense for that to be true. And I've been very pleased with the book, Avengers Extinction Key. Go check it out if you're interested in a read. I think, gosh, what was his name? I forget the guy's name, but I've read some of his books before. He did the XCOM 2 prequel book, and it was fantastic. And he's done a really good job with this book as well. So go check it out. But if the book is canon to the game, there's a part in the book where Cap sees Doctor Strange manipulate time a little bit with the Eye of Agamotto, which I hope that doesn't mean that it's the Time Stone here too, because that'd be pretty lazy. But it did seem like it was more of a mystical way of turning time.
Mm-hmm.
So I hope, and it's more limited, so I don't think it will be a stone. But Cap asks him questions about like how far can that thing go back, and can it be used to like correct a mistake or save someone?
Mm-hmm.
And we learned that he's referring to Bucky. So Winter Soldier has not happened yet in this world, which is interesting. That's a big deal, because that means that his inclusion is going to be more than just, Winter Soldier, hello, glad of you to join us. It's going to be more like, oh, hey, best friend, you're not dead. That's a big deal. So I'm curious to see what they'll do with that.
Interesting.
That could be cool. And what I think they may end up doing, that could be where we're headed with the Tachyon rifts. We're about to do time travel.
You think so?
It's possible. I mean, if they're going to mention time travel in the book, and this version of Cap very much has a desire to save Bucky. Mm-hmm. And literally at the first sign of seeing that time travel is possible, he's just like, hey, can I use that to save somebody from like 1942?
Hey, can I use that for a second?
Can I borrow that just for like negative 80 years? But that makes me think that if we're heading into time travel, that could be a ramification of it, is that we could somehow bring Bucky towards the present, because it'd be weird to me, like not necessarily weird. It would just be interesting of them to do the Winter Soldier story in its origin, like as we know it from the MCU, where he was brainwashed, used as an assassin, and then he turned good. Right. I don't really see them doing that with this game.
Would he still get the arm, you think?
I don't know. I feel like he would almost have to.
Yeah, maybe Cap rescues when we rescue him from the time.
Yeah,
from time travel. Maybe his arm was injured. I don't know. That's interesting though.
Yeah. So I thought that was pretty cool. And there is a chance that, as far as I know, the only Winter Soldier confirmation that came from this data mine from Miller was someone saying Barnes, Bucky Barnes. But that could be another character that was Barnes. I remember when
it could be Old MacDonald. You know what I mean? We just call him Barnes because he's a farmer. And farmers have barns.
The line isn't even Old MacDonald had a barn, Jake. It's Old MacDonald had a farm.
I know. I'm just, but there are what's a key element to a farm, Steven?
The song, in the Old MacDonald song, Jake, does he once say barn or barns? No.
Okay, fine, whatever. I'm trying to debunk you, Steven. I'm setting your expectations straight.
I know. Anyway,
what else you got?
So they also talked about the super adaptoid, which, you remember the
as
Sentinel?
Like a playable hero?
No.
Oh.
No. So I think it's called the super adaptoid. You know how the Sentinels from X-Men adapted, like in Days of Future Past, they adapted to the abilities of the mutants. Mm-hmm. Imagine that, but it adapted to the Avengers, and it literally was like copying the homework of every single one of them visually as well. So I'm talking, it's got Iron Man's head, Captain America's chest, a shield in its left hand, a hammer in its right hand, all this jazz. It is basically an adaptoid that was created to beat all of the Avengers with their own powers. So that's probably going to be a boss coming up, maybe even in the AIM secret lab.
That would be cool.
Yeah, it looks kind of derpy a little bit just because of the head, because it's just a straight up like Iron Man head. But other than that, it looks really cool. It's just kind of weird looking with the Iron Man head on top, but I understand why they did it. But that is probably going to be a nightmare to fight. So look forward to that. But his mic drop, as he said, and I'll actually find this real quick for you. His mic drop was War Machine's concept art.
You promised me Captain Marvel, Steven.
She was mentioned. She was mentioned. Carol. They said Carol by name.
Okay.
But the War Machine concept art, I'm looking for the exact one. Wow, a lot of these are more similar than I thought they would be. I just looked up Avengers War Machine concept art, and I blame myself for thinking that was a good idea. Talk about how you feel about this real quick, like all of the non-War Machine stuff while I look for the exact one.
I mean, I'm excited. I'm excited to get more heroes. I kind of hate how it's gone with we're getting Kate Bishop. That's going to lead into Hawkeye. And then who knows where it's going to go from there. But it just, I'm not disappointed in Hawkeye and Kate Bishop anymore. Like I think initially I was. But what I'm more upset about now is like, we assume Hawkeye and Kate Bishop are going to play differently. I know, Steven, you and I on a stream were talking about how there's a potential that Hawkeye has powers now, that he was an Inhuman.
Yeah, it alluded to that in the story description of his thing.
And so we could possibly, they're going to make them play differently, even though they're both archer heroes or whatever. So I'm not as worried about all that. What I'm upset about is it's like, okay, cool, we're going to get Kate Bishop. She's an archer hero. Okay, now, all right, it's Hawkeye. He's an archer hero. Like, I'm ready to get to Captain Marvel.
It's the
Black
fact
Panther.
that they were put next to each
so
other that
close
makes it
together.
disappointing.
And I get it. I get it from a story standpoint. Kate is looking for Hawkeye, and that's why. And I get it. But
I just sent you in the Discord. That is the War Machine concept art.
I saw it, and then it went away. So I'm going for it.
But to add on to that, the one
like
silver.
War Machine.
Yeah, and I'll talk about that in a second. The one silver lining to me about Kate and Hawkeye being released next to each other, you kind of alluded to it, is that the story does seem to matter to them.
Right.
And I really hope that is true and continues to be true, because I've been itching for a game, like a service title, to take advantage of the fact that it is persistent, like it is ongoing. The story that happens in this update directly ties into what's going to happen in 3 months.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
There are so many of these games out there, but so many of them suck at doing this. And it's like a huge draw for me personally, because I play these games for the story in large part. And so I really hope that this is a sign that even though they're like, yeah, we know we want both these characters to come out, and maybe it'd be weird to have them come out back to back, but this makes sense story-wise.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
I hope that that's part of their reason, and not just that it was easier to develop two archer heroes back to back. I'm going to try to give them the benefit of the doubt.
I know that it's absolute hogwash bullshit, because there's a moment in the campaign that was the perfect opportunity for Captain Marvel to come back into the story, and they didn't take it. So
aren't you glad that I warned you ahead of time?
Oh yeah, because I would have been like, my heart would have been jumping. I would have been like, no way. Which, and if you think about it, you just unlocked Cap. You're literally, which again, I mean, hell, they did it this way. You get Cap at the end of that story, right? Like you play the last 2 missions with Cap as a possible hero you could play.
Right.
If they had thrown Captain Marvel in there as well, it really would have just been insane. But anyway, I digress. I still want
coming off of that, I'm really glad that what they considering what they ended up doing with MODOK, and how the story was very much the setup of the launch day story of Crystal Dynamics Marvel Avengers game. Is all about bringing the Avengers back together. That is the only story that they were concerned with telling. If they had put Captain Marvel in there, knowing this, like after playing all, I would have been pissed, because then it would have lessened the whole concept of the Avengers reuniting. They needed to be able to win the day on their own. If they had to have Captain Marvel, that would have irritated me. So I'm glad they didn't need her. But also, we talked about this a little bit. Speaking of the book, again, one of the things that makes me think that the book, I didn't think we talked about Avengers so much today, but I'm
okay with it.
Oh well, here we are. Gosh, I'm at that point to where I've talked too much, so like my nose and my throat are bothering me a little bit. It happens like every week, but normally not this early. But something we talked about is that in the book, when Thor arrives on Earth towards the beginning, he's talking to Tony, and Tony's just saying like, yeah, we're looking for all these potential threats. We're trying to contact Danvers. And Thor's like, oh, Captain Marvel. Yeah, I ran into her in space.
Mm-hmm.
And Tony's like, oh, what's going on there? And he's like, and Thor's like, actually, that's why I'm here, because she's off world fighting the good fight up in space. But she has a feeling like she feels like Earth is unprotected right now. So she asked if I would come here. And Thor admits that he wanted to be on Earth anyway, because his heart is constantly pulled back to the people of Earth, and he doesn't understand why.
Mm-hmm.
He just has a soft spot for them. But the fact that like I thought it was weird ever since they showed the Once an Avenger mission,
Mm-hmm.
how they showed that Thor literally left Mjolnir on Cap's monument, and just that's where it was this whole time.
Mm-hmm.
And I always thought it was really weird, because it's like, if the Avengers broke up and Thor had no reason, like he wasn't fighting crime or whatever, why did he stay? Why didn't he go back to Asgard? And so just the knowledge that Captain Marvel pretty much said to him, like, I need someone on Earth, and Thor respects her.
Mm-hmm.
She's a huge deal in this game world, by the way. Like, according to, I can't remember who had this thought, but someone was basically thinking that like Carol could take on all of the Avengers at once and this entire group of people that we're fighting right now. Someone had that thought. So when Captain Marvel comes, she's going to be a big deal. She is a big deal in this universe, but I
just hope she comes sooner rather than later.
Yeah. And that's, I like that they handled it that way though, because now it's like, when she comes, she's going to bring a story with her. Mm-hmm. There's going to be a reason that she is back. And I think it's going to be something with the Kree. Mm-hmm. I think that's where we're headed. I think that the fact that it was a Kree sentry during the MODOK fight, mm-hmm. And we see something launch into space, I think that the Kree were basically notified like, hey, there was a sentry on Earth and it got destroyed. And it's kind of the Thanos concept to where mm-hmm. they're going to see a challenger in Earth. Mm-hmm. And so they're going to come to us, and Captain Marvel's going to come with them. And I think it's going to be a moment that is, I know you hate not having her now, mm-hmm. but I think she's going to come in a moment, like she has the potential to come in a moment to where you're going to be like, oh my gosh, this was so worth it. Mm-hmm.
I'm sure it will be.
But anyway, all be said, the book potentially has a lot of really good reveals to it. So we it's now alluded to that Thor stayed, mm-hmm. Even though he didn't use Mjolnir a lot because there was no fight. He expected a fight.
Right.
He knew he was going to be needed here because Captain Marvel off screen told him that. And even that little reveal to me was that was a big deal. Like that answered a big story question for me.
Right.
But it didn't feel like a story question that was getting in the way of people who didn't read the book from enjoying the game's story, which is exactly what additional content should do, in my opinion.
Right.
So anyway,
was there anything about Doctor Strange in those data leaks? Did they have any dialogue from him? Ugh.
No, which is really interesting mm-hmm. because Doctor Strange is a huge deal in this book. He is mm-hmm. basically a main character in this book. He is doing all of the stuff with the Avengers. He's been in like every chapter. So that's interesting to me. I really hope he doesn't die at the end of this book. I'm terrified that he's going to die, Jake. I'm going to be so pissed.
I am too. That would be really...
Yeah.
Huh.
Anyway, last thing I'll say, because my throat is actually starting to hurt. The War Machine concept art. Let's finally get to it.
Oh,
looks great. It looks like War Machine. Mm-hmm. He's got his shoulder turret, and that's all you really need to know. He has the shoulder turret. That is the most important aspect of War Machine. If you don't have the shoulder turret, then you're not War Machine. So
you're not War Machine.
There you go. But he's got a ton of guns, like a shoulder missile launcher. He's got a shoulder turret, 2 wrist machine guns. He might be my new main when he comes out, depending on how I like Hawkeye and who else is out at the time. But he just seems like he's going to be a huge ranged powerhouse, and that's what I need in my life.
That's what Steven wants to be. Yep. I'm curious to see how that'll work out and how that'll play. I'm getting on board with the fact that they're doing, you know, for lack of a better term, duplicate fighters. but that they are going to give them enough difference and enough of a different play style.
One thing that I did forget about the data mine, Kate Bishop's support heroic allegedly got leaked, and it's called Hollow Drone or something. Basically, it makes a hologram of her that pulls aggro.
Interesting.
Yeah, could be useful. And I doubt that Clint will have that. So their heroics will probably be completely different.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, cool. Very cool. Steven, did you have any games that you've been playing that you want to talk about? Or because I haven't really. We just talked about Avengers a lot, and I've been playing a little bit of Avengers.
Yeah.
And I hadn't really played anything new.
Oh, man. Well, I can't talk about it in detail because I feel like I'm dying. But I've been playing a good bit of Avengers, pretty good bit of Division. Title update 11 came out, or season 3,
right?
For the layman, that came out. And with it, Summit, which is good, not great, but it's what the game needs right now.
Right.
I haven't got to play it much, but I've been playing a good bit with Austin. He and I streamed it on Saturday night. I miss Jeremy because he is working. Jeremy, if you're watching the podcast, I miss you. But
we miss you, buddy.
We really do. Jeremy got a new job, and he is working with, I believe it's some form of hurricane relief. And his hours are like 4 p.m. to 4 a.m. 7 days a week, every week.
Dang.
Yeah. So he's real busy.
Yeah. I feel that.
So, yeah, haven't gotten to play Summit with Big Germ. I miss him. But he's out doing good work. Hopefully he'll get some time at some point soon, and we can play it, maybe do a stream.
The time will come.
The time will come.
Hey everybody, thanks for watching this episode of Chortle Cast. We do hope you've enjoyed it. If you did, there's a couple things you can do to help us out. Number one, if you're watching on YouTube, you're already at chortlegames.com. You can like this video, share it with your friends, leave a comment, all that good stuff. You can also watch the podcast live on Facebook. That's at Chortle Games on Facebook. If you don't want to watch on Facebook, we also are on Twitter, which is at Chortle Games on Twitter, and Twitch, twitch.tv/Chortle_games. Anytime we're live streaming, you can go to any of those. Podcast comes to YouTube and Facebook. But beyond that, we also have a Discord. You can get to that in the description of this video or through our channel banner. So go to chortlegames.com.
And it's a great time to join our Discord because we're about to use our Discord for something.
We post memes. We let you guys vote on games that we're live streaming for the night. We just kind of hang out. We have a channel called Chortle Dinner, I believe is what it's called. And
Diner.
People just post what they're having for the night.
I posted my magnum opus dish.
Steven
to
made
Chortle Diner.
It was pizza, right?
It was Tuscan chicken pesto pizza.
It looked really
the
good.
only thing we did not make from scratch was the dough. It was fantastic.
Yeah, it looked really good. But anyway, yes, Steven is right because this podcast airs every Monday at 12 o'clock Central Standard Time. But it's not the only thing we do. We also live stream usually on Thursdays, Fridays, and Saturdays. But that's not all. Sometimes we do this little series we call Forward Compatible, which is where we take a game that we haven't played in at least 5 years. We live stream a full replay, and then we post a review afterwards. We are still working on the review for Watch Dogs 1. That review will be coming out and posting later this month.
In
October.
Yes.
But I forgot we're still in September. But we're
still
like
September,
on the
yeah.
Wake me up when September ends, which is tomorrow. So,
I just realized I have not listened to September by Earth, Wind, and Fire, and September is almost over.
How have you not heard it? Literally,
oh my gosh.
I've heard it so many times this month.
I've gotta play it a few times every day for the next few days. Austin, if you're watching, next time we play Division, I'm just gonna loop September by Earth, Wind, and Fire while we clear Summit.
There you go. Great plan. But anyway, Watch Dogs review is coming, but it's time to start our next series while the night is young. Steven, what we're putting it to a vote. What are the games that people can vote for forward compatible, and how can they vote?
So we're going into October, spooky month.
Spooky month is upon us.
So I thought it would be fitting to kind of theme the options, but I totally acknowledge that straight up horror games, maybe not everyone's forte. In fact, I don't like straight up horror games, so none of these are straight up horror games.
Not our forte.
Because I never really played many of them. So the three options are different types of horror. Kind of sort of horror adjacent. That's what I said. Horror adjacent. So your first option, the most obvious, is Fear. The shooter, I forget who developed it. Let me check real quick. And these all, I feel like, are going to be fairly not super well-known titles. Monolith Productions, published by Warner Brothers. Weird. That's Fear. That's the game with the creepy girl in the red dress. All that stuff. I'm not going to talk about the games here. If you would like to know more about these games, ask on the Discord, and I will gladly provide information. So there's that one. It is a psychological thriller FPS that I have pretty fond memories of. One of the other options, you have three options. Option number 2 is the Bureau XCOM Declassified. And it is not a horror game. It is another shooter game, but it is a squad-based tactical third-person shooter. But it is in the vein of like X-Files, something like that, to where it's like a small town hit by an alien invasion, and you're kind of solving what's going on while also trying to keep everything under wraps. So there's that as an option, and it is an XCOM game, kind of, even though it's a shooter. So that's another one in there. And then the most surreal of the possibly too real horror is Spec Ops the Line, which is literally a game about contracting PTSD and watching it tear apart a man's life. But it's also a fantastic story-driven third-person shooter that is not horror at all, but is definitely psychological. More of the horrors of war rather than, spooky monster. It's more of, wow, war is awful. Why am I even living? So that's your third option. So you have either creepy psychic girls as a first-person shooter, creepy alien invasion like X-Files as a third-person shooter, or War is Hell, the third-person shooter. PTSD, the third-person shooter. So those are your options. If you would like to vote, and I recommend that all of you do, because every vote really does matter. Most of these come down to 1 or 2 votes. You can go to the Discord. We're going to use the anonymous voting page so that we don't, because what tends to happen with our people is that one thing gets 1 or 2 votes, and then everyone just has, horde mentality. They just go for that one thing and nothing else gets voted for because of peer pressure, I guess. So that no one feels judged by what they vote for, or no one feels pressured into voting for something else. You can message me on Discord. I will post to the voting channel what your options are. You will message me privately with your choice, or you can comment on this video in the comments down below. Or you can send me a carrier pigeon. I probably won't get it. But if I did, that'd be really impressive. Seriously, if I get a carrier pigeon with like a little paper strapped to its foot that says PTSD the game, which it's called Spec Ops the Line. It's not actually PTSD the game. But
does that person's vote is that what we're going with? If we get a pigeon?
Yes. If your carrier pigeon shows up, I will play that game. But if 2 carrier pigeons show up, it's going to have to be a photo finish. It's whichever beak is over my property line first.
Oh, wow.
So yeah, I look forward to hearing what you guys vote for. That is going to begin probably a week from today.
Yep.
We're going to announce the winner in next week's podcast, and the streams will begin that evening. So vote for your choice. All of these games are, I'm really excited to do any of these games. That's what I was telling Jake. I was telling him I definitely wanted to put it up to a vote. I wanted them to be kind of horror themed, but these are all games that were part of the reason I started doing forward compatible to begin with.
Right.
Especially the Bureau and Spec Ops the Line. Those are two big ones. But Fear is definitely the closest to the October season. So pick whatever you guys want to pick. I'm totally down with any of them.
There you go. And like we said, we are getting to the Watch Dogs reviews, so that is coming.
It's
Watch
coming.
Dogs was just such a big game, so it was harder to do.
It was a big game, and it was a big game that a lot of people have talked about.
Right.
So it's like, obviously, I don't want to just make the review for the sake of sounding different. Like, I don't want to just be like, here's something no one said before, but you kind of want to say something that no one said before, or at least say it in a way that no one said before, because then what, if not, what's the point of the video existing if someone just did it better? So it's been difficult trying to figure out like what and how I want to say. And just a lot of people have talked about it. And it was also, like Jake said, just a really big game for the series that this is, because we normally don't do games that take that many episodes to beat.
Yeah, it was a lot.
But it's coming.
It's coming.
And what I do have of the script so far is pretty hilarious. Jake knows about it. I don't know if we're going to be able to make it work, but what I've got written down, I'm excited to see Jake make it work in the editing.
It's going to be fun. It's going to be a lot of fun. Well, that's going to be it for today's podcast. Thank you for tuning in and listening. Remember to go vote. And remember to tune in this week for some of our live streams. Again, Thursday night, Friday night, and Saturday night. It's been our pleasure having you. Steven, thank you as always for your wonderful insight. We'll see you guys next time. Bye.
Bye.